Warning: if you usually listen to this podcast at a faster speed, singing will be used, and this might be a good time to slow your podcast player down. If you've been with me from the very beginning, you know every so often I like to throw in a little singing now and then. I try to deny being a theater person, but I secretly am. The theater bug will bite me every few years or so, and I'll want to be in a show again. And not just any sort of play. I was brought up listening to Rodgers and Hammerstein, singing along with Julie Andrews and Bernadette Peters, and had it not been for my lack of grace when it comes to dancing, I probably would have pursued it more. But now that I have a podcast, and I wanted to celebrate the 100 episodes by doing something special, no one has to see my bad coordination. I'm your host, Emily Prokop, and this is the story behind the musical. Oh, you can't see me. I'm doing jazz hands. But first, a quick message. Originally, I had a song for this episode's promo, but I decided to record this straight instead. I just wanted to thank everyone who has supported the show. I'm really proud of not only making it to 100 episodes, but also the 1-year anniversary of The Story Behind. And many of you have been there from the very beginning. Thank you for joining the Story Behind Facebook group, liking the Story Behind Facebook page, following @StoryBehindPod on Twitter and Instagram, becoming executive producers by supporting the show on Patreon.com, sending notes, emails, DMs of encouragement, retweeting, commenting, telling your friends. Really, you guys are the lifeblood of this podcast to keep it going. There's going to be some exciting things planned for this podcast and myself, and I can't wait to share it with you all. So here's to another 100 and another year of The Story Behind. Oh, and if you're an executive producer of The Story Behind, you can hear the original song I was going to use for this promo by going to patreon.com/thestorybehind. And now for our feature presentation. This is the story all about the modern major musical. The history's quite large and certain facts might be disputable. It started back in Greece where many theaters were acoustical. The Middle Ages brought them back with church and traveling minstrels. The 17 and 1800 shows were quite satirical. The opera was serious, the musicals were comical, and views expressed may not have always suited those imperial, but entertainment wins and they continue to be fashionable. With names like Strauss and Offenbach, they spread fast geographical. They hit the USA and folks enjoyed a bit of vaudeville. The history's quite large and certain facts might be disputable. This is the story all about the modern major musical. Burlesque we will not cover because this podcast is for all ears, but just to note this was a part of musicals for several years. Extravaganzas, pantomimes, and farces were all met with cheers. The theater thrived and fattened wallets of investing financiers. Broadway emerged as the grand force to rule all things theatrical. That stage reviews like Ziegfeld's Follies drew crowds international. The 1919 unions forced their contracts with the picket line. The 20s saw Cole Porter, Hart, and Rodgers, and then Hammerstein. The Great Depression didn't keep the musicals from going down, but actors moved out west to Hollywood for movies now with sound. The history's quite large and certain facts might be disputable. This is a story all about the modern major musical. The people went to movies to escape thoughts of the Second War. The musicals were loved and records flew off shelves at music stores. The decades passed and rock and roll soon stepped on music theater's toes. But Sondheim came and introduced the people to his concept shows. The trend revived and musicals came back strong like they were before. The audiences clamored for Andrew Lloyd Webber's epic scores. And now our favorite movies turn to musicals all do quite well. And history has sold out crowds with R&B by Lin-Manuel. TSB100 I came up with doing musicals. I hope you learned a bit and all my rhymes weren't inexcusable. The history is quite large and certain facts might be disputable. This is the story all about the modern major musical. No, I'm just kidding. Information for this episode was sourced from musicals101.com, pbs.org, and more links, which can be found in the show notes at thestorybehindpodcast.com. By the way, if you think that was fast, just know Gilbert and Sullivan's original Major General song was actually faster than that, and I had to slow it down to about 75%. I really tip my hat to anyone who has actually performed it at full speed. There was a lot of editing magic that happened to make mine sound even halfway decent. This episode was brought to you by the Story Behind executive producers who support the show through the Patreon page at patreon.com/thestorybehind. Stargate Pioneer from GonnaGeek.com and Better Podcasting, Matt from The One Word Go Show, Linguist Sam, Diane and Denise from History Goes Bump, Scott Smith from Recovering from Religion, Dan Brennick from Netflix and Swell, Jared Dunham from thehistoryfile.net, Heather Welch from Sunshine and Power Cuts, Jason Bryant from Matt Talk Online, Gerald and Andy from Two Peas on a Podcast, Bandrew Scott from the Bandrew Says Podcast and Podcastage YouTube channel, Adam from Everyone Has a Podcast, Barry G, Nick and Justin from Epic Film Guys, and Jeremy Collins from Podcasts We Listen To. I will be taking a break after this episode for a few weeks, I think to recover my singing voice and to catch my breath after that. Thanks for listening.